record, and I'll ask for just a minute. Okay, yeah, and we can talk more about that stuff during the main lecture, just to make sure that everything's clear. But so we had a request to work on number 14. Let's just see. So this is a price floor question, and it's the change in producer surplus compared to the market. So that seems reasonable. And all the ones before it, notice that they're related here. So for example, well, this is price ceiling number 11. So okay. So who asked about number 14? Who?
Andrew Lee.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Andrew, so do you see for this one, what do you think about this one in particular?
Well, I just didn't get how the answer was 0. Because I think it also includes like the bottom triangle.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
who else thinks they understand why this one would be 0? Because I think Andrew, you're skipping a step. Anybody else have an idea? You can raise a hand. Okay. What about you, Scott? What do you think?
Why it would be 0?
What's that?
I'm not sure. I was writing down the notes real quick about the sample quiz. So why it would be 0 for number 14?
Yeah. Well, okay. So what's our first step for any of these? Well, okay. First step, graph it, right? And
Yeah.
the second step should be something else. But I'll tell you what. So you all graph this, and we'll all work on it together. I may randomly call on you and ask you to show us your graph in your camera. Okay, so that would be everybody but Riley and William, because they don't have video this morning. But I suppose you guys could always take a picture and email it to us, and then I could show your picture, Riley. You're here, Riley, right? And William?
I'm here.
Yeah, and what about you, William?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so you all work on number 14 and graph it, and then I'll come back in just a minute and we'll talk about it. And I see one person in chat. Okay. All right, so I'll give you all a few minutes. Okay, so how is your graph going, Andrew? Andrew?
Yeah, hold up.
How's your graph going?
This time. Is it on?
Yeah, I can see your camera. I was asking how your graph is going. You don't have to show us yet if you don't want to.
Oh.
Are you feeling good about your graph?
Yeah. Well, it's always the same. But I just plugged in the numbers. I'm trying to find the new equilibrium.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And what about you, Brian? How's your graph?
I already finished it.
Okay. And you feel good about it?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Celine? How do you feel about your graph? Oh, Celine?
I feel okay.
You feel okay about your graph? Do you have any questions about your graph?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. And what about you, Hung? How do you feel about your graph?
I think not okay.
Not okay. What are you struggling with?
I can draw the supply and demand, but the price flow, I don't know where we sit. Okay, I have trouble with that one.
Well, you can see it's going to be at a price of 6, right? It's just going to be a straight line, a flat line, right? At a price of 6,
Oh, okay.
right? So, and what about you, Riley? How are you feeling about your graph?
I'm feeling all right about my graph.
Okay, good. And Ryan? Ryan Turlip? How do you feel? Maybe Ryan stepped out for a minute. How about you, Scott? How are you feeling?
I'm assuming I'm making a mistake somewhere because the answer being 0 isn't really being screamed out to me yet.
Okay, nice. But your graph, you're okay with it, right?
I think it's right. Yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Wombly?
Yeah, it's probably not the prettiest, but like looking at it, I'm able to kind of understand the problem.
Okay, good. And William, how do you feel about your graph?
I feel pretty good.
Okay, all right. So Wombly, why don't you show us your graph and let's see if we can get some comments on it.
Yeah, it's fine. I just find like it's a little sloppy, but I could do that.
Okay.
So let me see. Flip the camera around. Can you guys see me or no? I can't.
Yeah. We can.
Okay.
We can. Okay.
Oh, there we go. I see. So here's my graph. I have the Q, the P line, the 62, the 2, and then here's the demand curve, the supply curve. I found the equilibrium price of about 19.1, Q star like 8.571, and the price low of 7 is right here.
Yeah. And well, the price floor is 6, right?
Oh, it's yeah. Sorry, I must have misread it, but yeah, 6.
Yeah. So, does anybody have any comment on Wombly's graph? Do you all, agree, or do you like think maybe not? You can just put in the chat like, yes, I like his graph. No, I don't. Or I think there's something. I saw your chat, Ryan. You got to get up and go in the other room, Ryan. Okay, so Riley says he likes his graph. Again, anybody have any, like, did they come up with something different? Or and Wombly, you said, and I didn't check it, but you said that your equilibrium price, which is important, you said it's like about 19, right?
Yeah, I got 19.142.
Okay. So yeah. So Andrew, do you agree, because this was your question, do you agree with Wombly's graph?
Yes.
Yeah. So now, do you think you see why it might be 0?
No.
Okay. So remember, and I know you all kind of, there's this like habit of like, oh, I want to look at the equation, I want to look at the graph, and I want to just see the answer. What about you, Wombly? Do you see why it might be 0?
Yeah, the reason I got is just because the price floor is below the equilibrium price, so it'd make it non-binding. Therefore, it doesn't really affect it very much.
Yes, that's exactly right. Good job, Wombly. So remember, we draw the graph. That's like our first step to orient ourselves, because we really want to see, is equilibrium price above the price floor or not? Because remember, price floor is a law that just says you can't charge, in this case, less than $6 for this item. If the equilibrium is they're already charging $19, then they're in compliance. So we graph it and then we assess, right? Is the price regulation binding or non-binding? And remember, the answer for non-binding is we do nothing. It doesn't affect anything. And so I think when we did the last lecture, we handled the binding cases for binding price floors and binding price ceilings. And we only just casually talked about the non-binding case. It doesn't mean it's not important. It's just that there's really nothing for us to do other than to note that it's non-binding because it doesn't affect the equilibrium at all. And so I usually, I mean, I can show it on a graph, but the main point is just to think about it. So Andrew, you have to think about what a price ceiling and a price floor mean. You know, what's the meaning behind the law and how it would be enforced. So if it's a price floor, it's just right a legal minimum price, which means you can't charge less than that price. But if you're charging more than that price already, so you know our best example is a minimum wage, and if you know the minimum wage is $15 an hour, but we're talking about the market for electricians, for example, that's skilled labor. And you know my son just started a job in Sacramento as a project manager for electrical contractor, and they're training him to be an electrician. He has zero experience as an electrician, and they started him at $23 an hour. Right? So he's already above the minimum wage. Do you see what I mean, Andrew? So minimum wage isn't going to affect him if it's below his salary. His current wage.
So actually, now that I think about it, if I put instead of like considering short or long term, if I put this in like you know those step graphs, like those 90-degree incline graphs, then the first unit might not even be under the floor, right?
Well, in this case, right, it's 2 and 2. So at
by the time it goes to the first unit,
at Q is equal to 1, right? The supply curve, the cost there would have a value of 4, right? Because it's 2 plus 2 is 4. But that's fine because you can see that. But it doesn't, I mean that doesn't really matter. What matters is that the price floor is below the current equilibrium price, and therefore it's not binding. And you know, hopefully you can kind of understand the reasoning behind it as I explained with minimum wages. But from an analytical point of view, the only thing you'll ever be asked to do is to say, oh, well, this is in this particular case, it ends up being a non-binding price floor, so it has no impact on the market, you know, kind of end of story.
Yeah,
it does nothing. So there'll be no change in producer surplus, no change in consumer surplus, no change in total surplus, no change in output, no change in price, because it's all non-binding.
Yeah. So I was writing about like equilibration, like from the book, like you know, trying to add some fluff to the answer. But yeah, I got it now. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So and so let's go ahead and we can see, okay, well here it says given the demand supply system, a price floor, how much consumer surplus is there? So that's just going to be the consumer surplus associated with the equilibrium quantity, and how much, if you're going to calculate the producer surplus, you should get that value. So I think we pretty much worked through this assignment, and I'll just kind of throw it open for questions for a minute. And if y'all don't have any questions, then the next thing that we're going to work on is the taxes and subsidies section. That's going to be our next assignment. But I don't want to rush you all. If you do have questions about anything in this assignment that's not been answered. So I'll give you just a minute to think about it. Okay. Okay, hearing none.
Can we get like any help for if we have like any question for this professor? Like I'm doing at home, but I'm having some trouble. So is there any site that can support me with that?
Well, I guess like, so the answer is no. But that's what the activity is for, Hung, is so that you can ask the questions. Now, I will tell you something, right? So this material and the material from taxes and subsidies, that's going to conclude our discussion of review material for supply and demand. And then we're going to move on to the consumer choice problem, which is our next major topic. So we're going to have a midterm that's going to talk about everything through taxes and subsidies. So it's going to cover all of the basics of supply and demand.